Welcome to the April meeting for the Port Authority. And on behalf of the whole board here, we are proud to announce our new executive director, and we'll let him introduce himself as we proceed forward. And we'll start with the introductions and our new executive director.
All right, glad to be here. Tom Drum, Port Oswego.
Jenna LaPietra, board member.
James Metcalf, board member.
Pat McMahon, Port Plate.
Kitty Macy, board member.
Tony Casamento, board member.
Fran Enright, board member.
Thanks, Fran. All right, first item on our agenda is motion 04162601 to approve the minutes of the March 30th to 2026 regular monthly meeting.
Motion.
Jen?
Seconded. Kitty.
Kip? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. And our second item is our administrative financial report, primary and subsidiary. And we're going to let our executive director add it for the first one.
So, terrific. So we have Debbie Godden here as well, the Port employee, who I will tap if there's likely any question, as we've been certainly going through some budget boot camps over the last couple of weeks. So the exhibits are self-explanatory. They're all in your exhibits C1 and C2. I can tell you just from kind of a holistic point of view, Debbie and I have been taking a very keen look at expenses that have been put out, particularly over the last year, but really me getting a sense of kind of what bills are coming in on a daily basis, monthly basis, so on and so forth. So if there's any specific questions, I won't run you through all of our sheets here, but I can tell you as a new executive director, Debbie's been great at getting a good sense of what's coming in and what's coming out on a consistent basis. One thing I will highlight for you, and I think it's important for the board just to maybe continue to keep an eye on our grants receivable summary. So for those that aren't super familiar with grants receivable, this is money that's owed back to the port. So if we have a project that's, hey Diane, if we have a project that's in a lot of cases with grant funding, we have to put the money up front and be reimbursed on the back end. A big priority for me, particularly with how difficult our last year was financially, is staying on entities, whether it's the state, federal government, or other means of grants that are owed to us, about making sure that that money's paid back to us in a timely manner. That's money that comes directly back into our bank accounts, goes through a couple different steps, but then is able to be put back to either reimburse the project or to put to other various expenses that we might have out on our balance sheet still. So you'll see me over the next several weeks taking a keen eye on that, getting a sense of what entities essentially owe us that reimbursable money still, and then working with the appropriate partners to just kind of raise the issue with them. It's money that's out there on the table for us. We need to make sure that we're as efficient and as frankly loud as possible to get that money back to us in a timely manner. So it's something that the board should take a keen look at, but please know, kind of out of this financial report, that's one thing that I'm looking to tackle head on, and really we have to work through a lot of times our elected stakeholders to apply some pressure to these various state entities, and a lot of times with federal entities to say, hey, can we get an update on kind of where this money that's owed to us is. So I'll be taking a focus on that kind of moving forward. Our monthly bills are in there. Debbie's again done a great job of walking through monthly bills and what's reoccurring. We're going to take a critical look at what expenses are on a monthly basis here. We have to. I'm not sure how long it's been since that process has kind of gone through, not necessarily an audit, but a real close look to see. Debbie and I have already started some of that work, which is kind of reflected in the budget, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we're in a position in full transparency, where we have to be micro-focused on expenses, just with the state of how poor things were last year for all the factors that this board has talked about historically. What we're expensing and what's going on a monthly basis has to be critical with that. So we've already started that process. So I'll leave it there. If there's any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. If not, I'll tag in Debbie. But the minute information and the nitty-gritty is in your packets. I encourage you to review it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out after.
Can I ask about the grant, grant funding?
Yep.
So we were talking about this last month, and my understanding is that we often will take a loan to pay the upfront, and then we're reimbursed.
Yep.
Interest rates are in a terrible place right now, and I'm pretty sure we don't have a fixed rate loan. So, you know, whenever it's a line of credit, it's usually a float. So, how do you see, I guess first, is there a way for us to go back to the state, start calculating out some of that interest that we're paying, and go back to the state and ask them to make us whole on that?
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
don't know how much of a hole that's creating for us.
So it's a great question. So it all depends. When we work with certain agencies, the reimbursement rate is quick. So DOT, correct, Debbie? When we do this type of upfront cost with the DOT, we can expect returns and reimbursement in weeks as opposed to months. I'll give you an example on our grants receivable summary here. We have a large grants receivable with FEMA right now. When DOJ came in and those cuts happened, essentially shuttered FEMA, we've had difficulty getting reimbursed on that money. And so, to your point, moving forward, and with that grant specifically, that's where an executive director needs to start to raise some alarm bells with the federal government. So that would be, I mean, I've discussed this, but like, that would be a conversation likely with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand's office to say, we're in a financial position where $500,000 would be very alleviating to a lot of things that we want to do. So those conversations are going to happen. So to answer your question directly, it does vary. Moving forward, it would be in my opinion that if we're looking at projects that we need to go out with any type of line of credits, they need to be looked at with a very, very critical eye. I don't think we're in a situation where I know we're not in a situation where we don't have the luxury of accruing long-term interest. And so when it comes to grant funding, we have to be, until finances get to a little bit more of a stable position where we're able to maybe make that call on the interest payment, we have to take a critical eye and say, because of where we're at, this pool of grant funding might not be as advantageous as it might seem on paper, because the upfront cost and then subsequently the interest on the back end is going to put us in a position where we're crunched. And so that's going to be done on a case-by-case basis. Again, if we work with those entities through grant funding where we have historical context of being paid back in a timely manner, then a line of credit and then accrued interest might make sense. That's what this board just did with our electric rail car. We're very confident that those reimbursement payments will come in
They
a time.
didn't even ask for money.
Right.
That's working out
Right,
great.
exactly. And so when we can find that slot, like something like that, we should continue to be aggressive with. But in other instances where, and to be completely transparent, dealing particularly with this federal administration and the uncertainty that it's created when it comes to these types of funds, we have to put a real critical eye on if that makes sense.
So, do you know if there's any precedent for, because I imagine we are not the only small entity that's strapped like this in the state. Is there any precedent for the state actually stepping in, doing the reimbursement, and then they basically get signed over the remainder of the grant? So basically,
Yeah,
like a
I see what you're
tax
saying.
return buyout, or actually your state buyout, whatever.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's not my understanding. I don't know any precedent of, particularly with grant funds, where the state, it's very rare to find the state coming to pay 100% upfront and then us try to reimburse them on the back.
And I don't even mean like upfront, in the, you know, for a new program. I'm saying even for an existing program.
I got you.
Okay, so you know that you're owed this from FEMA, the state gives us the amount that we're owed.
Yeah.
We pay off the loan, we end the interest.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, we have signed off basically our right to that
Understand.
final reimbursement to the state.
I've never heard of it being done that way. I don't think that, it doesn't mean that question can't be asked to the appropriate parties, particularly that, I'll be honest, like, I think we need to get as creative as possible
Yeah.
through that, and so, the worst case scenario is we ask that question, and, you know,
Well, the first answer is going to be no.
Right, of
Why?
course, yeah, but to more directly answer your question in a historical context, I've never seen that done, doesn't mean it necessarily can't be, but I
Or
think.
that it hasn't been.
Or that it hasn't been previously, right? I'm not familiar with that.
The fact that they basically have shuttered FEMA, I don't think the state is going to see as a reliable possibility that they'll get.
That they'll get
reimbursed.
either, yeah, I think that's fair.
So you have to have a backup if FEMA doesn't.
Yeah, I think where your head's at is correct. I think holistically, the state of New York is dealing with some of the similar problems that we're dealing with the federal government, obviously on a much larger scale, but I can tell you, at least from my experience and other lines of work, that relationship is a very, very tough one to navigate right now, not only for a port of this size, but for the state of New York as a whole. And so, you know, it's the level of uncertainty that exists right now is tough. In New York, I think in certain instances, to your point, is looking at it similar to us as, yeah, we don't know if we want to take that on either. But at the same time, long term, when we talk about, you know, strategic planning as a board and some of the asks we should be making from New York to try to get skin in the game here, that should be broached in a conversation like that to see if it's A, to Jen's point, been done before. If it has, great, then we really got some leverage. But B, could we explore setting the precedent? So.
It sounds to me like you're saying that there's a possibility that we're never going to see it.
No, I don't think that. I do think, what I would say from a political landscape is, I think November's going to be very important for the structure of the federal government. I think if we do see change in leadership, particularly in Congress, I think there'll be some applied pressures to be able to restore some of those very drastic DOGE cuts that you saw. So if you're looking for a light at the end of the tunnel in that situation, I think all eyes unfortunately do key in on what's going to happen in November. If it doesn't result there, I do think, you know, a change in the executive branch will result in could result in some payment of this funds. I mean, it's, to be honest with you, there's another layer of this where this type of stuff is being litigated at a high level, right? The dismemberment of federal agencies are being litigated, and so when that process, as we all know, takes a lot of time, years at some points. They win a stay, then it gets reversed, and what you'll likely see is these going to the highest courts in the land and having the Supreme Court rule on some of this stuff, and so it's not as if there's not anybody pushing back against this dismemberment of these organizations, but the litigation, as everybody's aware how litigation works, can take years. So, but to answer your question, I do think it's not completely gone. I do think, like, with changes in the political landscape and through litigation, that funding is still a possibility. But as of today,
Well, the other thing is,
did you have
we don't
something
want
to?
to
No, go ahead.
forever on this. Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing is, I mean, maybe just rephrase the language. Is it something that we would consider to go back and ask the city for a low-cost loan to pay off that loan? So basically,
Yeah.
refinance
Yeah,
that
yeah.
loan through a low-cost loan, because it
Yeah,
sounds like what I'm hearing from you is
Yeah,
this will eventually get paid, but we're talking about months.
years
before that-
possibly.
Possibly years,
Yeah.
and we're sitting here paying 8% probably
Yeah.
on this rate.
Debbie, is that right as far as our loan structure with that FEMA reimbursement? Is that on a line of credit where we,
Yes.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to speak to the FEMA, they're closed down because of the because of the Homeland Security
Yep.
not being
Yep.
funded. It has already been approved, It is just in the last step where they just
Okay.
needed to submit the report and send it to the state. So, but staff is not there.
Okay.
So it's just a
You're
matter
saying
of them
it's
being
a short, it's
brought
not
back
a-
to work.
Okay, this is not a short FEMA issue, this is a.
Right.
Well, it's a little bit, is it fair to say that FEMA holistically has been drastically gutted?
Yeah.
But there's still, outside of this funding issue, there are still people that when they're back to work, we can have a conversation. But the organization is is in tough shape post the Doge cuts, but when they do come back online, we at least have somebody to call, right?
Because they were working on this in January and
Yeah, okay.
February, and it just, then they shut down,
Got it.
so.
Again, I know I'm a pessimist here, but the turnover with the federal government is so high right now that you can't depend on the fact that 6 months, it's not gonna be a whole new staff with a whole new agenda. So I think it would be foolhardy to count on that money, and I think it would be probably in our best interest to at least seek out some options. Like, I'd like the idea of going to the state and seeing if they would, give us a better rate on that loan. Or maybe even talking, I'm sure other ports have had financial issues in tough economic times. Are there tricks to this process that maybe we're not aware of, or ways that they could help us figure out some short-term solutions to buy some time?
Yeah, I think to both your guys' points, the answer to the questions are yes. We can certainly, we're gonna be having a lot of conversations with New York State, particularly around finances, and so I think this is just another piece in that equation of what we're kind of dealing with financially. So directly to your question, yeah, that is a conversation we could have with the state to see if there's ways to work with them to try to refinance something with that's much more manageable from the port's end. And to your point about tricks of the trade, yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of my role is going to be going out and try to build that network to have conversations with others. So I can pick up the phone and say, we're dealing with this down here. Have you dealt with it before? And what would you recommend? And so yes, we got to explore. We got to explore it all.
I still think it's also a good suggestion, or a good, at least something to think about. And I may be totally off base, but I think we really need to start courting Micron and see if we can't get them to make a commitment to use the
Yep.
port instead of going someplace like Ogdensburg,
Yep.
and maybe, financially becoming an early partner.
Yeah, I'm happy. Those conversations have already started. I'm happy to talk about them in depth kind of when I go through my chairman's report here a little bit. But yeah, you're right.
And I apologize because I switched.
That's all right. I can keep up. From time to time, anyway. But
All right, so if there are no questions or comments on the primary financial and subsidiary financial reports in the past, we have chosen to pass them together. Is that a motion that someone will entertain?
So moved.
Jamie?
Second, you said it,
Okay, any questions as to that motion? That motion 04162602, that we accept exhibit C1 and C2 together. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes. Can you hear all right, Fran?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I got it.
It
All right,
doesn't
yeah.
even look like it doesn't even look like a real place.
So let me
It
move
does
on.
look like that right out my window.
We're envious, Fran. Let me move back to administrative operational report, which usually precedes the administrative financial reports. And so again, Tom and Pat, welcome back, Pat, after your surgery. Would you like to go ahead with your?
yeah, so what I'll do is just to be sensitive to everybody's time, I'll kind of run through our list here. If anyone has any questions, maybe we just kind of save them to the end, so we can just be sensitive of I don't want to cherry pick and get off time for everybody's sake. So you'll see in here, this is something you guys get every month as far as monthly activity report from the scales office. That's for you just to take a peek at kind of what's coming in and out of the scales office. If you have any questions with that, feel free to send them to me, Pam Dowd, George Lloyd, and what's Melissa's last name? Fensky. Melissa Fensky's down in our scales office. It's just something to take a peek at. You can see the trucks coming in and out of here. On the topic of transition of leadership, so thank you. I'm excited to be here. It has been, how's it been? It's been crazy, right? It's been crazy, but it's all good stuff. I'm excited to be here. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the announcements that have gotten out into the press. So we've had some nice coverage for the port on that matter, and so a little, I don't know, it's a little. You don't get to see yourself all over the place. So I go a little gun shy with that stuff, but I think it's good for the port. And I just think it's good to kind of get that we're changing things out over here, and so I was really happy to see some coverage there. But the transition, I'll be 2 weeks in tomorrow, so the transition is certainly ongoing, and it's been exciting. This is an interesting place to be, and it's been a little crazy. It's been a little crazy. So as far as staff meetings go, we've made it a point, or certainly I've made it a point in these first couple weeks. We had an all-staff meeting last Tuesday to get everybody introduced to myself and vice versa. Post that staff meeting, I've been taking individual one-on-one meetings with our employees here, half an hour to hour meetings, just getting a sense of just an orientation meeting for you. What do you do here? Give me your roles, what's working well, what's working not. Everybody's been very welcoming and very nice on those fronts. And so I have a couple more to finish up towards later of the month. Some of our folks that are also double as union presidents, so we'll save those comments later. But the reception's been good, and everybody's been welcoming and helpful, and so we'll continue those throughout the month of April. As far as operating business goes, we are, and I don't want to. So as far as operating businesses go, I'm going to just kind of, for the sake of this, kind of take a keen look at our aluminum here. We can, if people want to know about potash and our agricultural center, we can. I would say with potash, like, we're busy. You can see in our scales report, we're having a lot of trucks in and out each morning, Pat. I mean, since you've been here, it's been, at least for the week that we've been here together, it's been a high volume of trucks, which is good. We're running efficient on that. Met a new driver today from where? He's from Philadelphia to New York, which I didn't know existed. So first time at the port, so we kind of showed him around a little bit. The potash has been good, specifically with aluminum, which is really kind of certainly our bread and butter and the cornerstone of the port. Pat, to his credit, I've tried not to bother him when he's been out, but he's been great at tapping in when we've needed him here. Logistically, we're organizing a project via rail car for Novelis next week, which is a welcome sign. They're going to be bringing us about 150 ingots right back. We're going to be offloading those and then reloading these rail cars to send back out to Novelis. They have some stuff in their yard that they need to move down to us, and they need stuff that we have here to essentially move back to them. Why does that matter? Because it's a good sign about ramping up out there. This whole community as a whole, and to be fair, the industry as a whole, has been waiting in bated breath about when do we think we will see production out there again. I don't know specific dates, but I would be pretty confident saying I think we're going to see that, over the summer here, a return to pretty consistent production in the hot mill, which is about as good as news as you could ask for the port of Oswego. So I think this is kind of just a taste. This is not a traditional vessel that where we really make our bread and butter, but this rail car work will yield some revenue for us. But I think the overarching theme is it's good to see that they want to take stuff out of here to put in production for mainly a lot of the auto body industry, which has been so drastically affected by this. So Pat's done good. This is a good dry run for a new executive director to kind of see how logistically how this works, which in full transparency, that's the learning curve for me. So I've really tried to make it a point to, poor Pat and George Lloyd here, I mean, I've asked them to tell me the same thing a couple of times, and just to slow it down for me so I can, while not slowing down operations, but slowing down the back end so I can learn this the proper way. They've been immensely helpful with that. We had about an hour meeting on it today. I think I got my head wrapped around it pretty good. Best case scenario, things should move slowly, but we built in some contingencies to be able to handle what's ever thrown our way. So that's welcome news to see these types of aluminum going on here.
That might be an opportunity for some press.
Yeah, I
pictures on under for us.
so what I was gonna lead into too, and to maybe more into your point is we are tentatively expecting a vessel in late April, which is the most welcome news. I think that, and tell me if I'm speaking out of terms, Pat, but our focus are when we can get vessels of ships carrying aluminum here. That's a very, very welcome sight to the port of Oswego. So these things change. This isn't 100% locked in, but we've seen pretty consistent scheduling updates that indicate that we're expecting to see a vessel of aluminum here sometime in the last week of April. So Pat's always told me, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, they get pushed out a lot. Things can change, but
Times have changed, but they're coming here, but the barge is a unique thing. It's like pushing a barn across the water. It can be pushed out in a couple of weeks, but it's still holding strong, so we should be seeing the aluminum barge hopefully by the end of the month.
so to your point, we might make a little pay about that. And just,
It would be good for them too.
I think so.
Oh, sure.
I think so too. So I think your head's in the right place. I think that might be more of a proper meeting to maybe get something out to the public about that.
Get somebody in here, take some pictures, you
Yeah.
know, in front of the boat.
So any
Shake.
yeah, I'll keep everybody posted on that. If there's questions at the end, I'm happy to run through that again. Tenant report. So obviously this board's aware that we are a landlord in some instances where we have lots of leases out. I'll share, and I apologize, this probably should have been included in your packet, but we do have some leases that are expired or very close to being expired, over at Fish and Wildlife, at the Marine Museum. Any others, Debbie, that are real
Wellness
close?
center's coming.
The Wellness Center at Novelis is coming up, so
I thought that was actually expired.
it might be, it might be. Actually, it is expired, you're right about that. And so, high on the priority list is making sure that we get to the negotiations table on these. Likely next month, you're gonna see some recommendations come from my office to the board about ways that we should restructure these leases. I think there's some areas that the court should be doing things a little bit differently. But I don't want to dive too deep into it because we haven't for the sake of the negotiations and for the sake of what I'm going to recommend, I'd rather just save it to last month, or to next month, excuse me. But
Before you do,
yes,
can I request that we go ahead and invest in some real estate valuations on those properties? So that we're not spitballing it here?
we can. I would just for what it's worth, if the board deems that as a worthy investment from a financial standpoint of bringing somebody in here to do those assessments on our current real estate, then I'll serve at the direction of the board. I would just note, like, being very cost conscious on everything. But if the board deems that as a worthy tool to use, I defer to the board.
Well, I don't know that an appraisal is terribly expensive.
Okay.
I think it's worth the question.
Okay.
And I think it's worth us being able to make that call once we have an idea of what it's cost.
Yep.
What I think we run the risk of, though, is in the long term, under this port has had a history of undervaluing
I would agree.
its property.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so having,
Baseline,
having the knowledge to go into a negotiation
it's fair.
is very useful and will pay us back probably in spades.
I think that's totally fair. So yes, to answer your question, Debbie and I we can explore
The
that.
other
You'll get
thing
that for some costs on that. 'Cause
For sure, I'm not
my
gonna.
understanding of commercial appraisals is they're way different than residential.
Oh,
and they
yes.
would cost
We can, well, listen,
significant
there's
amounts.
absolutely no harm in exploring.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is that if you're going to use a commercial real estate organization, it might be worthwhile for us as, because I know in the long term, you're thinking about strategic plan,
For sure.
and you're thinking about looking at the entire property. That's something that you would potentially work with a commercial real estate
Yeah.
organization on. Letting them know that that's on our horizon is also something that could help, bring down the cost, start that negotiation now and say, we are gonna do this. We need to be thinking about this
Yeah.
entire property holistically. It's good for them to have an idea of what's here, and, it's always good to meet them a little bit.
Okay, I think that's fair. So let us explore it a little bit. We'll kind of project some costs out for that and then report back. So I'll leave that there as far as leases go. Again, we're taking a critical look at everything. Pat's been nice enough to tag in on that a little bit and help with the historical context of how much maintenance we're doing at certain places, utilities, so on and so forth. I know just enough about it to be dangerous. So I will report back on this appraisal stuff, and as we start to gear up for any type of negotiations, it would be my opinion that we should have a conversation as a group about setting the table for that. What it looks like. I think I would like. Moving on to projects, just a couple grants out here. We have our warehouse modernization grant. We have our rail upgrades and grain conveyor. I'm not going to dive too deep into these. If you have questions explicitly about the grants afterwards, I'm happy to talk about them. But do know I have made contacts with all these agencies that currently have these grants in my first couple weeks. So I brought myself up to speed on where they stand and what responsibility the port has and our granting agencies have to move forward to execute on these things. They're both good projects. They're both projects that on the surface with the work that I've done thus far, I'm supportive of, particularly our warehouse modernization work that we're thinking about doing. I think I'm fully supportive of that one because I've done a lot of outside research on it as well. But I'm happy to kind of talk out further if anyone has explicit grant questions with it. We have contacted all these agencies, we've had a talk. It's really just getting a sense of what our responsibility is. It reverts back to our conversation about, from a fiscal standpoint, what makes sense that we can do up front. And so I'll give you an example just briefly with our rail upgrades and grain conveyor. This grant is allocated. The money is there for the project. The conundrum that we're going to run into is what is the appropriate way to finance the project, right? And in a position right now, we can talk about this down the road a little bit more, or if anyone has direct questions after, but I think it's fair to say we're not in a position to be able to, put millions of more dollars on any type of lines, as much as we're interested in the project and have other businesses that would utilize this project interested in it as well. We have to take such a critical eye at what we're doing as far as financing up front with this. So, in my opinion, specifically with this one, we're just not in a. I don't want to get into it too much publicly, but I would just say we have to take a critical eye at what we're able to do up front. Our congressional discretionary spending, formerly called earmarks. I think Tom talked to you guys a little bit about this before, but we've submitted these directly to Senator Schumer's office. His focus is on Fitzgibbon's site over there, bringing some fencing in, which has a whole host of benefits, not only from a security standpoint, but also being able to widen our range of things that can be stored on the concrete out there. And so I'm scheduled for a longer term conversation with Chuck's office, which this will be broached. I'll be happy to report back any updates, but in a time where any good news is welcomed, I think that's something that's certainly attainable for us. Again, it all comes down to the finances. I think you're looking at about a $1.5 million grant total on that. So I will provide updates as they come in. Administrative office damage, we are still in thralls of dealing with that. It's something I took an issue with and started making calls. Day 1, hour 2, maybe I started calling some people
Were you
Uh,
getting wet?
Yeah, it's what you see is what you get in here. We've been lucky that it seems like the snow is kind of gone for the season, which was a big factor here for the actual leakage. But we're still affected by rainstorms. We've had heavy rain. You guys have all seen it. The offices are still leak when we get rain, and so we are engaging. We've already engaged with the state on this conversation. We are not circumventing, that's not the right word. We are navigating some of the bureaucracy that's involved with getting this emergency declaration approved. But I can tell you, I have scheduled out in a week, about a week, this emergency declaration has to be done with the Office of General Services in the state of New York. I've scheduled out some high-level conversations with just about the top at the Office of General Services. The goal would be to try to cut through some of the bureaucracy, not intentionally trying to go over to people's heads, but because it is an emergency situation, it kind of dictates trying to go right to as high on the food chain with this stuff as you can. And so that conversation should be taking place in a week to try to get a keen sense of if we have to provide anything more to the state to get this done, what that looks like. It's better to get it right from the top sources, top level staff, top level commissioners, to see what we need to do. So I will have a report on how that conversation goes next month. Key stakeholder outreach, I'm going to pass on that. You guys kind of heard through this conversation who I've been reaching out to. The short is everybody. So we got those scheduled out forward. I sent this news article to you guys previously. It's just in your packet about a novellis in the aluminum industry. It's a good read. Kind of gives you a good lens of the aluminum market and hopefully where it's heading in 2026. If you haven't read it, I think it's a good one. I asked Kim to put it in the packet, which thank you, Kim.
Thanks for sending that stuff out.
Yeah, happy to. I'm going to take this over for Pat, just because he's been out the last week, and he's gonna chime in on what I miss, if anything. Updates on operations. We talked really about that with novellis previously here. Again, expect to ship late April. We have some aluminum transfer projects going on over the next couple weeks. Our potash is we're continuing to do. We're working with DeLong, who you see in our big silo out here, trying to be good partners on everything agriculture. They had a real bad, as everyone knows, a bad season last year, and so yeah, we're just trying to be. We're hoping for a better season, but also from an operations standpoint, making sure that we're being as strong of a partner as possible to keep this stuff moving. Potash has been moving well, right, Pat? I mean,
Yeah, we went from 2 days a week to 5 days a week.
yeah.
So they're moving a lot. Farmers are being able to get out on the fields now.
The potash that's coming in from here to here comes from where, do you know?
Thunder Bay.
Where?
Thunder Bay.
It's from Canada then? So it's still under tariff.
Still watch. All right.
Still watching.
Everybody, so I talked about day 1, hour 2, hour 3 was still watch, I think. And so to Tom Schneider's credit, you guys give credit where credit's due on this. He had engaged or been engaged with a potential interested party from Canada. When Tom left, I started up those conversations as quickly as possible. We all know what the liability that poses, and particularly with our marina ramping up now, where the Stillwatch is currently, we put transient docks in, so we'd have to shift it to another wall again, and then with vessels coming in, it's not any space that we want dictated to anything but revenue generating vessels that come in. So I engaged with this party that was interested. Talks are very, very positive. I'm hoping for, and please do not hold me to this because I don't want to, everyone walks around here like tippy-toeing because we've had stuff on the line before and it's fallen through. So I can't promise anything, but the conversation's been very positive about a possible pickup next week. So don't clap yet, when that thing's out past the lighthouse and out of
It
sight.
looks like it's listing less.
It's never really.
The whole body
It is
goes
listed.
forward.
Tom, when you come and get it, let us know, so
Yeah.
we can come and watch it,
Yeah,
please.
you might see some champagne popped up here, certainly down in the marina. But again, I just do want to, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I do want to caution everybody that we've been this close before.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work out. I would say, and I think, the staff would say this seems pretty legit, but it won't be legit until it goes over the horizon. But please, as you're
I
working,
kind of would like that picture.
as you're going through your week, send us some good vibes. We just need some good vibes surrounding it, because it will be very welcome to say. That's my administrative report. Does anyone have any direct questions? I think I'll change that up going forward. Maybe we can take some time to ask questions in between, but that's where we're at. Pat, did I miss anything?
No, you did everything.
I did okay?
Yep.
You
Good.
sure?
Yeah,
All right.
good.
If you're good, I'm good. All right,
Good job.
thanks.
Got your feet wet.
Feet are soaked.
Okay. Next item, chairman's report. Chairman.
I have nothing to say at this point, other than welcome aboard, Tom, and I can see you got your hands full, but you're doing a great job.
We're trying. Thanks, Fran. I appreciate that.
All right, so, committee reports, there were no committee meetings in March, and just so you, one of the reasons we aren't having committee meetings is because we don't have enough people on the board right now to have committees.
Right.
So we are anticipating June, when the state legislature finally votes in our potential new members. Old business. I would like to move an item from last month, which was new business, the election of officers, up to old business. If you would, or if you're okay with that.
Okay.
And this is normally, if the public happened to be watching that meeting, our computer shut down to update itself unbeknown to our schedule. So we were unable to complete that item on the agenda. So to get it moving, we're moving in as old business first. And so this is normally the meeting, last April is usually the meeting that, March is the meeting that we elect the new slate of officers. So that's going to be our item at hand right now. And so, Fran, did you?
Yeah, look at, guys, I want to say something before the election of officers. I want to take myself off the table for any officer's position, and really at the end of this meeting, I'm resigning off the board. Okay, I just want to say that thank you to everyone here. You were such a big help. Jenna, thank you. You're one of the newest on the board members. You've been a powerhouse coming through. And Jamie, great. And Kitty, great for on our planning and development. Diane Zeller, I always appreciate your input. And Connie Cosumel, I can't say enough about Connie being there. And really, her and I worked a lot in the depths of what we had to go through here, starting with Dome 4 and working with finding a new director, and again with Kitty and really in Stan on that committee to finding a director. So I really appreciate what you guys do. I know the sacrifice that you've taken, but right now my life has changed so much since when I've been on the board. Now that I'm retired, and really my life is expanding in Florida, and we got plans for travel, and it was just so unfair to the board to have me really on. We need to get replaced with, I need to get replaced, and get somebody that's there all the time and can make it. So I appreciate it. And I would really, at this point, like to nominate Connie. It would be the next board chair. That's my feeling. So anyhow, thank you, everybody, for your service.
I'd like to say thank you for everything that you have done for the board as well. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Yeah, Fran,
Thanks.
it's been very, very great working with you all this entire time.
Can we come and visit?
No answer there, huh?
No invite.
I don't, like I say, lifestyle change, on the way back,
Say no.
back home, I get lost in the Midwest somewhere. I just, I know I'm gonna be in Fairhaven sailing sometime this summer.
Stop in and see us.
Next month's board meeting, Florida.
I would like to second Fran's nomination.
Thanks, Marianne.
Okay.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's not really.
It's not,
So you don't have to,
So,
there's no motion to
Yeah.
second.
so are we nominating him?
yes.
So what are we nominating for? What's the
Typically-
First officer we're nominating
The chair, the vice chair, and the
for.
secretary.
Can we do it individually?
You can do it individually, or in the past, we've done it as a slate.
Can
So
I just nominate a slate?
I'm nominating a slate.
Okay. Can I nominate the slate? Connie Pazmenzo for chair, Jamie for our vice chair, and Kitty as our secretary.
So noted.
Second.
Jen?
Yes.
Any discussion?
That's pretty quiet.
All in favor? You think?
Aye.
I guess, can I?
Are you voting, Fran?
All right.
I was just sitting right
I'm
there at the same time.
trying to see if you can
Yes,
see
you
it.
vote.
Aye.
Everyone should vote, yeah.
Aye,
You can
aye.
always vote
You
for
can always
yourself,
vote for
too.
yourself.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, yeah.
Opposed?
I did it 3 times in the past.
Okay, two.
Abstain?
Right, one for the
So
good.
that's
Congratulations.
passed.
Fran.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well, thank you for your,
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fran.
Congratulations.
Hey,
Fran.
it's been my pleasure, guys.
well, as we all know, this is a very steep learning curve, and I don't think you ever reach the summit.
Nope.
So I will do my best to keep everybody informed and keep us moving forward. Okay, so that, all right, so now we move on. Any more old business? Moving on.
How about committee, Connie? Are you gonna appoint a committee tonight? People on their committees or not?
So we could do that, but really, it probably would be more appropriate, Fran, if we waited until we got our new members on board.
All right, sounds like a plan. All right, you got it. I'll stay in the truck.
So, one question, the representative from the county ledge, are they also getting appointed at the same time as everybody else?
So it could be, but it's 2 different processes. So specifically with the county appointed, person to serve on the board, the conversation between the state of New York and the individual that's being appointed happens between, in that instance, the county and the state, where in other instances with other board members that are recommended from the community, they don't have a direct government involvement. So the simplest way I think I put it is they're 2 different systems. There's a group of board members that have been recommended for their involvement in the community that are currently going through the vetting process. The county appointed position is typically outside of that process and is by state law how it's carved out is over here in that.
So, with your knowledge of this process, do you have any idea what's taking so long for the county ledge person to be on?
I do not.
I know that he just recently went through his
Vetting?
background check.
They
Okay.
did,
Okay.
so my question would be to you,
Yeah.
because I was always asking
Bill
Tom
Chris.
Schneider,
Bill
Yeah.
Chris.
Oh, that's
if he was aware that if the county is keeping in contact with the state, because we as a board and the county democratic chair who maintains correspondence with the state or our new board.
And we also should consider trying to fast track so that they're gonna take in a group. Fran's position has come open tonight, or will come
He
open. at the end of the
he
year.
was already in.
Oh, he was in that?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so we just, that might be a good thing if you were to reach out to, would that be Phil Church or Jim Whitehouse?
It would be, I don't mind having a conversation directly with the individual that's going to be coming on the board to get an update on kind of, he would probably have the most real-time sense of where he is in that process.
We just need to make sure it's happening,
Yeah.
but if he's been vetted, it sounds like it.
But yeah, that would be, if I don't talk to that individual directly, it would be a call to Phil Church. He could direct me on how this works.
Can you and I just touch base on that after?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think for, I shouldn't even, because I'm not sure how this process has worked in the past, particularly with the county appointed person. My understanding of the process is that there's one process that's working over here, and then the person that's appointed through the county, that is a whole separate process that maybe this board hasn't engaged directly with in the past. We've maybe just kind of waited to hear when they've gotten appointed, and great, that's their legal right to have that person on the board. We can absolutely kind of change that dynamic. We'll talk after about,
Yeah, but if he's been vetted already, it sounds like he's ahead of the,
Yes, it does.
ahead in the process of the other person.
we can talk about it, yeah.
I don't even know if the others have been vetted yet. I could
No,
probably
they
double
didn't
check.
vet until after, last year, I mean, they were vetting me as I was like signed.
Yeah, it's a little bit of,
Oh, all right.
That's crazy.
I can't
It is.
remember. All right,
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah, it was very late in the
We
process.
can talk.
okay. Any more questions on that? All right, so now we go to new business, and this, next item is going to need a motion, and this is in regards to Bowers. Who will
CPA?
do- Who will do the audit of the board. And this is traditional audit, so do you have any questions?
This is what we do yearly, right?
Yeah, this is what we do.
And I know Debbie can speak to it too.
Debbie,
Any
would you-
questions?
would you like to speak briefly on that?
This is we have an annual financial audit done by a third party, as required. And so this is the auditing firm that we've been using, and we're within the requirements as far as how long you can have a partner. I think it's 5 years, and then it has to change. So we're within that 5 years.
Is this our fifth year?
No, I believe it's our
And-
maybe
and-
third.
So moved then.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so that would be. Any questions, discussion?
I would just say, if I could, Chairwoman,
No, no, no.
this is our, so to Debbie's point, this is our state obligation to go through this audit process. To what Debbie just mentioned, there's a certain amount of years you can use a certain amount of auditing firms. 5 to me on the surface seems, I wouldn't advocate to change this yearly about what auditor comes in on a yearly basis. You do need some historical context. But I do think, a role for me coming in is again, what we talked about a little bit earlier on, is putting a very finite look, particularly surrounding procurement and how we procure things around here, and a lot of things fiscally. And it's certainly not pointing the finger at anybody. Debbie does a great job. I've sat with her for 8 hours last week or whatever, 6 to 8 hours last week, and our numbers are, the work that she does is done correctly, and it's sharp. But from a holistic standpoint, I think it's just healthy for an organization like this, for when we're obligated to do this anyway. We have to do this audit anyway. I'm always of the opinion that getting fresh eyes on an audit is a benefit. So whether the board wants to continue to stay on this 5-year cycle where they think that's an appropriate historical context for going through audits, or if you guys take a look at switching out audit firms on a more routine basis. I wouldn't advocate for a year-to-year change, but if there's a middle ground there, because I do think when it comes to this stuff, fresh eyes are always good. And that, again, that's not pointing the finger at Bowers or anybody for saying that they're not doing their job. I've read the audit reports, they're thorough, they're done correctly. But what you'll see with me through my tenure is an advocate for fresh eyes on things sometimes. And I just think like, as we do this year in and year out, it might be we're going to be timed out in 5 years anyway. But
So do we know when Bowers' expiration date is?
So Bowers is not, it's the partner that can change with it. So we've been with Bowers longer than 5 years.
oh, okay, gotcha.
But the partner has to change if you're staying within the same firm.
Gotcha.
So I can't remember how many years this has been. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3.
Could also be a cheaper set of eyes.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think it's something you guys need to dive into by any means, but I think as we go out and do some long-term strategic planning and the things that we want to talk about, it's something to consider, and you might see me be a proponent of that, but it's not, we don't have to get too into the weeds, but.
No, I would also want to.
And I would defer a lot to Debbie too, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
I was gonna say the same thing, I would
Yeah.
also want to know from Debbie, like, how difficult is it to bring a new
Right,
Set of eyes in.
group, go out and procure a whole, like, how much effort is there in doing that, and
so,
then
Which
also,
we have done.
Right.
It's been a little while, but we have done that. And there's, it does take a bit of time.
Yeah.
And then getting them up to speed. on how
that's what
things
I
are
mean, the up to
takes
speed
quite a while.
part is
Yeah.
the thing that.
Because just as Tom is learning now, there's a lot
Right,
that goes on here.
That's
And
fine.
trying to get your head wrapped around
Putting
it
it nice.
takes a while.
right.
Absolutely.
for what it's worth.
Always number one.
If we decide that we want to change a firm, we might even want to look at firms that other courts have used so that they would come with that basic information.
So,
Huh?
Sounds like something to take up in 2 years.
Yeah, it does.
Have fun with that, guys.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, passed. And our last
Did you want to come up to the
motion?
table for this?
can I say something first?
Certainly.
I just want to remind everybody that the New York State Commission of Ethics and Lobbying of the government is basically asking, so our file for deadline for that is Friday, the 15th of May. So, did you guys get this in an email? Okay, because I just want to make sure everybody.
So, in the past, I have, for the last 2 years, I've just gone online.
Yes.
Right, which is what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to go online, but yes,
Way
yes,
easier once
yes,
it's
yes,
done
be
once.
done with it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, because in case anybody neglected doing it, they get kind of busy.
Yeah, they do.
Not kind of.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
find.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we have one last item here, and it's the motion to adopt the 2026-27 budget as presented. And who would like to speak to that?
Debbie, if you're comfortable coming up to the.
Sure, I can come up. If you guys needed to discuss anything
Yeah, I can.
or go through things further, it might be something that we need to go into executive session
Okay.
before we.
So we'll defer kind of to your judgment if you feel like we're getting into the area of waters there, just feel free to interject and stuff. I'm planning on kind of just doing a pretty high level approach. I mean, it's board members' kind of responsibility, when you can to get an innate understanding of the budget and how it flows. Debbie's great at answering questions if you need to come in. I don't want to speak for you, Debbie, but if a
No,
board
that's
member
fine.
wants to come in for a one-on-one to really get into the weeds, if you like budget stuff, it's a fun conversation. I tend to, so I've enjoyed getting to know it a little bit. Yeah.
There's gotta be therapy for that.
That's funny. So what you saw was, and I appreciate this board's flexibility to give the new incoming executive director a chance to kind of get my hands on this in the first couple of weeks. I've done some pretty high level and some innate stuff when we've gone through some detailed work, but you're not gonna see a huge reflected change in what the former Director Tom Schneider proposed. The numbers, Tom, to be completely frank, has probably a better sense of year over year than I do. He was a board member for over a decade and obviously was in the interim role for for the better part of over a year. And so from speaking to Tom, from going over this with him at a pretty high level, from my more detailed work with Debbie, from a holistic standpoint, I felt pretty comfortable with what was being presented. I will note really one big change that you were presented with last month that is now changed and reflected in this budget, and that's under your proposed financial budget 26 to 27 here. The first page, it's a revenue page, and on the total revenue here, in your last column, you'll see percentage variance proposed to projected, right? So this number is dangerous of this guy, but let me see how I do, right? So this is projected revenue of what we think we're going to do this year as opposed to the year before. Is that correct?
This is
That 24.6 number.
proposed
Yep.
for this coming year
Yep.
compared to what happened last
Last
year,
year.
as it was projected when it was calculated.
And as we all know, last year we had projected a small profit, and with the perfect storm that we saw between tariffs and Novelis and a poor grain season, we're not positive in the revenue category, and having to. That's a much longer conversation about how we're going to attack that and get to a point of stability. But that's not a conversation necessarily for this budget. This number of 24.6 here, so page 24.6
Thank
on the
you.
bottom, right there. This number previously, I believe, was around 35%
Yes.
proposed by Tom. Had a good conversation. Tom came up to my office when we were having this budget conversation. Tom Snyder is very bullish on what he believes we're going to see with aluminum this coming year. I have no doubt to say that he's incorrect in that assessment. In fact, I hope that he's right tenfold, right? But for me, when I took a critical look at overall projected revenue, which we're projecting about a 25% increase in revenue, Tom had proposed about a 35%. For me, looking at it with a critical eye, those numbers for total revenue that's being proposed here are similar to year before last actual revenue that we brought into the port, which is what Tom felt we were going to get closer back to. I very much hope that we do, but what I think is important to note for this board is under that year before last's revenue, we weren't working in a tariff environment. There was still not a 50% tariff that is still affecting the business market, particularly the aluminum market. And so, although I share Tom's full faith in that aluminum production is looking like it's slated to ramp up, I still have very serious concerns about what this industry is going to look like in a tariffed environment, that 50% tariff environment. And so, for conversations with Tom and conversations with Debbie, I felt that we should factor that into our overall revenue. We're hoping for the best, but I did feel that 35% revenue over last year was a little bit bullish, particularly with the tariff environment that we're in. So that is the big change. You'll see that drop down to about a 25%. If we do better, that's great for everybody. It's great for the port, it's great for the board. It doesn't throw our budget into chaos or anything like that. In fact, it alleviates some of our stresses because we can pay more bills and so on and so forth. But that is the biggest change that you'll see. That discussion's up to the board. My formal recommendation to you is to stay at this 24.6 number. I think it's the baby. It keeps us at a point where we're optimistic about what's coming in here, but also recognizing that the aluminum market, particularly with the tariffs, is very much in flux still. And so that's the other change that you'll see. Moving forward, the budget as presented, Connie and I talked a little bit about this. This isn't like for those that have maybe served or worked in municipal government where you can count on exact revenue coming in based on your tax base, right? With the port, our revenues are based on what comes in and what comes out, and if we're doing large vessels or what type of work that we're doing. So these numbers, are projections, right, Debbie, about what we hope to spend and what we hope to anticipate as far as revenue. more business, more revenue, it's very simplistic in that end, less business. We have to take a look at how we get creative with expenses. Again, we're projecting, Tom projected, and I altered it a little bit, a decent revenue year for this place, which is needed. But moving forward, I consider, you're gonna pass this today and you're gonna adopt this as a board. But moving forward, I'm 2 weeks on the job, this is gonna be a living document for me. So if I'm finding in our monthly bills and expenses that need to spend more in an area or spend less in an area, you'll likely see a conversation coming back to the board. I just have not had enough time to go through every single line, because the way I do it, Kim and Debbie have been great, I go right down to the invoices, right? So I see what we spent, but Kim's been pulling invoices from me all week where I can literally see money going out the door. And so that type of, in my opinion, that type of critical look, not to micromanage, but some things that just maybe raise some internal flags for myself, I'm gonna take a keen look at
We
it.
need a little micromanagement to start out with.
Yeah, not of our people, but I think of our finances, I think it does
Just to get a
hurt.
baseline.
I would agree, Debbie's been more than, thankfully Debbie also likes this stuff, so she's been very
She's good
accommodating.
at it.
Yes, she's been very
That's right.
accommodating to get into the weeds, but again,
That's what I think.
just to put a bow on this, I do consider this pseudo-living, and so you might see me come back and say, I know we've approved this. Going forward, it won't be like that, in year 2 for me.
We're always gonna have unforeseen conditions.
You got it.
So don't,
Yeah.
right.
The
don't
goal would be to
promise.
try to pass as clean budget as possible, but to your
It's
point,
always gonna be.
particularly when we are proposing revenue as opposed to receiving actual revenue year over year, I think things are good.
Yeah.
So with that, Debbie, I'm sorry if I talk too much.
Not at
This
all.
is Debbie's document, this is Debbie's work, it's a lot of work, so thank you. This takes time, this takes effort. I think she's laid it out here, so it's very digestible, so thank you for the work that you did on that, and I hope I didn't talk too much, I hope I said this pretty right. If anything else to add,
No, I
that's
think,
okay, Madam Chairwoman. Defer over. Next one.
no, I think that was a very good explanation of the change that we made. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
This is not my bailiwick, and I appreciate the quality of the work that you do and how digestible it is, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Castello?
Castle Loop, yep.
Castle and Logistec. So Castle was with us first, and their name still is in our system so that we don't get confused. But Castle is who we worked with. They were, I think, bought by Logistec, right?
Yes.
And so we did projects where they brought the project in, and then we profit shared.
And I just think, I should just mention this. If the board ends up in your own time kind of diving into this a little bit more, you have 2 documents here, the one that we talked about with this 24.6 on the first page. We also have this budget comparison. When we've talked about the difficulties of the last year, if the board wants to see that in numbers, this is where it lives. I would certainly direct you to our wharfage, our ships and stevedoring, our loading and unloading, which we generate a big core of our revenue off of vessels, correct me if I'm wrong. And so as we talk about how difficult last year was, if you want to see that numerically about what we had projected and what actually resulted in that, that's laid out for you pretty clearly. And it was certainly helpful for me to gain the scope of what we're dealing with heading into 2026, for what that's worth. And again, Debbie and I are always, Debbie's always happy to answer questions. I'll probably sit in to learn as well, but you can always reach out. And I'll leave it there. Appreciate it.
Can I ask you a pretty dumb question?
She's had a lot of them the past 2 weeks. So don't worry about it.
Top charts. So when we look at last year's, the budget for 2025 to 26,
Mhm.
the first column here,
Yes.
we call that the budget,
Yes.
and we call the projected column, we have a projected
I
column.
asked the same question.
Okay, so, right, so
So-
why aren't they flipped? Because
So the budget, it was what we were budgeting
Mhm.
for 25, 26.
Right.
At this point, the projected would be considered actual what
The
happened.
actual,
Yeah.
right. the-
But when it was created, it was projected, so it's not
Yeah.
necessarily
Well,
actual, numbers may have
You explained
changed.
this,
Yeah,
you explained this last.
yeah, it's just we're past that point now,
So
so
now
it
it's
seems
actual.
like it's not projected.
Right.
But at the time it was prepared, it was.
Got it.
So I didn't go back, and we're still receiving things for March, so, invoices and things.
Well, and she actually did explain it last month, now that.
I'd like crossed out what actually
Right.
there was. I was like, oh my God, call this, she's like, yeah,
Call it whatever you need to, so you understand what it is.
I think that's where I get messed up.
yeah, it's, utilized
It's
everything.
been filled in.
No, it's
We forgot we were.
Yeah, that was a good question.
day 1 hour forward.
Do we have a motion?
I make a
Oh.
motion. I mean, does anybody have questions that we want to go to closed session for?
Second? Diane? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nice job, Debbie.
Abstained?
Yeah, thanks, Debbie.
Passed.
Christine, you don't copy that, you don't.
There was no executive session, so we are, for the good of order, everything,
This is not.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can't hear him.
Fran made that motion.
Fred's making the motion.
He's on mute. Fred's on
He's
mute.
on
You're on
mute for
mute,
some
Fran.
reason.
Did you hear us?
There we go.
Yay!
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Guys, it's been great.
Thanks, Fran.
Bye, Fred.
Thank you, Fran.
Be good,
We'll
Fran.
talk to you. See you later.